Cool, look at that. What can I say? I mean, the first thing that pops out is the fact that it's 67% alcohol. Look at that's really...
Oh, God, that guy's not doing very well. Or, oh, that guy's killing that guy.
Well, my tale's way fancier than yours.
I wanted to give him the speech we give to all our guests. If we take the piss, you fucking take it and you don't give it back.
Everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Neutral Cider Hotel podcast. I am your host, Gabe Cook. Coming up on the show today, we'll be chatting and tasting with the infamous Cider George. Does he have a surname? I don't know. We'll find out. And before we wrap up, we'll get back to answering your listener questions. But first, well, following on from last week's episode all about Perry, I had the opportunity to head back up to the Shire, to the heart of Perry Pear country, in sight of May Hill, to do a little bit of filming, actually, about the Perry Pears for camera, for their learning and discover pages on their website coming soon. There will be me wearing... What am I wearing? I was wearing my yellow check plaid shirt, actually.
I will say, just as a tiny, I guess, a horse of knowledge, because we've addressed it before...
Donkey of shame? I don't know.
The Shire horse of tragedy. So we need to say it for the American audience that it's the campaign for real ale. It isn't just you going to Herefordshire with a camera.
Ah, yes.
So can you give us an explanation as to what that body is in a brief summary?
Thank you very much. It is the primary consumer organisation for beer and cider in the UK. It's got something like 180,000 members, and they host huge, amazing beer and cider festivals. It's all in the single space all across the country, focusing primarily on the more traditional exponents of beer and cider and perry. For beer, that means cask ale, which is, the warm, flat, not fizzy beer. Sorry, no. Wait, hang on. That was me being an American. If I were drinking that beer when they come over and go, oh my God, the beer's so warm and flat, I obviously would not call it as such. It's the finest exponent of what beer can be. I am a big fan of cask ale. And now we've managed to switch the degree of alienation from the whole of Scotland to the entire beer drinking community. Shit. Anyway, so campaign for real ale. Thank you very much for paying me to go and do this wonderful Perry video. I love you. Don't hate me. Actually, so yes, we went up and we filmed in these beautiful, beautiful Perry Pear orchards. It's the area that I'm from, and I'm used to these trees, but it was just a most majestic sight to see them out in bloom, these amazing white flowers. These trees are huge and all of that jazz. So it's just a lush moment to get back to the Shire, back to the roots. And I also picked up a bottle of perry that I had made from the 2019 harvest. And the survey says... It was all right. Well, I mean, maybe I'm my own worst critic, but it was a little bit fruity. Well, it wasn't that bad. Scott, you haven't even tried it yet.
You are the one reviewing it.
I said, not.
He didn't say, oh.
Can you find something on the soundboard that is mediocre or indifferent?
That's magical. I
will take that. That's right. A soundboard contract is legally binding. I am having it. Certainly, God. What that sound effect does imply is the improvement on the 2019 perry versus the 2018 perry, which, of course, rather infamously tasted of sausages. Which
now
was
you
not...
can use your sound, Scott.
Appropriate, thank you very much. So yeah, nice to have a taste of the perry. It's been stuck in my brother's basement for the last year basically. So nice to have a little taste. So yeah, good to be back up in the Shire in the sunshine. Anyway, Martyn, my dear friend, what's been happening in your week?
Well, I really should have plugged this more pre-event. we've had so many news sections.
What's happening this week? I don't know. Not much.
Yeah. I'm just like, I'm doing all the research and just ignoring. Couldn't see the forest for the trees because this Friday just gone, it was the release of my cider In Touch with Pilton, and it was the second iteration. So last year, the
Keep
first
in touch.
lockdown.
Stay in touch.
Yeah. Yep, all of the other ways of saying keeping in touch, staying in contact, seeing your mates. These are all the sequels we're coming up with. But no, so it was lovely. It was one of those where it's on Pilton's page on Instagram, and it's the videos there, and you'll be able to watch it now and see how I react to bad internet connection. That I will say as well, it definitely wasn't me. When it ended, Martyn was like, "Oh yeah, it was mine." I was like, "Don't dob me in." He was like, "Oh, he's disappeared there." It's like, mate, you look like you filmed this on a potato. But no, it was it was lovely because it was loads of people. I know Felix from the Fine Cider Company. He had it included in his Pomelier Club box. So loads of people buying it from shops, and loads of people getting it in their subscription. And it was just like a nice reminder that like that little connection of digital is actually a lifeline at this moment for just social events, because that made that Friday for me of like I'm having a drink and then we're having a chat, and loads of people called after. And obviously, it would be lovely to do that in a bottle shop or a pub next time. But I'm just thankful that we've got it here, and at least I've got good enough internet connection that I can bloody do it. So,
but I think that they're going to continue to stay. There is something about the fact that it is a bit of an event. Instead of watching the TV or watching a movie, watching that live broadcast between friends, but also people at the top of their game, and that the engaging nature of the conversation and the bants, it was really fun. And the number of people who are watching these things is lush. And for something that basically didn't exist for cider at all 12 months ago, this is quite an exciting space. It's good fun.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we've actually taken from craft beer as like we do tastings and this and social events. Problem is with breweries, the benefit they've got is a lot of them are in industrial areas. So people can travel to see them, or it's a quick stop for them to go to their nearest city and hang out. Problem with cider, it's usually country bumpkins, other than the only urban cidery, Hawks, and then every other one in the London area. But it's a good way for them to reach those people, and it costs nothing to just basically send some samples to someone else or get them to buy them or whatever, and just do what we do here, sync up, have a drink and have a chat.
That's it. Amazing. Thank you, Martyn. And what about you, Grant?
Just give it a go, kids. Just give it a go.
With that, what? That was unexpected. Are you feeling okay?
À la volée.
Oh, is it?
Oh dear.
Has it been because of the change in weather? Is it like too hot, too cold? Is it tap-saff weather in Scotland still, Grant?
Did I call you a bird or be like?
Oh dear! I don't like hearing Grant like this. He's it's like he's undergone a personality transplant. This is not the man we know and love.
It's not our enthusiastic Scottish representative, is it?
No. What's going on? Oh yeah, you're not actually here, are you, Grant? Oh, you are doing the very important thing of opening up the able shop of, there it is, provisions, and a little bit of cider and perry tacked on the side. Lovely stripped floorboards and lovely glassware on the door frame as well. So big love to Grant. He's and to Jay, of course. This is, well, I suppose it's like having a second child, is opening up your own shop, your own business. It's pretty intense, pretty full on. And hopefully the good people of Anstruther know how lucky they are to have one of, what's going to be the finest provider of scampi fries anywhere in these British Isles. For the US listeners, scampi fries are a corn-based, fish-flavored, MSG-soaked treat that turned me into man that I am today.
take full responsibility, do they? Not Cider and Perry or Dimmock.
Nope.
Scampy fries. That's
Bloody right.
That's... Well, yeah. If basically, I'm glad. I'm glad Grant is. I was going to say I'm glad Grant isn't here, but what I mean is I'm glad that he hasn't half-assed both. He's gone, I can't do this because I'm pouring everything into this shop. So, guys, if you're in Scotland, go seek it out. And the UK, when it all opens up as well, we're going to go up there and we're going to have a pilgrimage because we want the finest crisps. We want the finest ciders. We want the finest Perrys. And we want it in the finest company. So hats off to Jay and Grant on setting up what's going to be the best shop in the UK.
And what's that called again?
And that shop, Scott, is called Able.
Thank you.
Good luck, Team Able. All right, that's going to do it for our opening rambles. There's not much happening on CNN. That's the Cider News Network.
Oh, here we
Come on. Not much happening on CNN this week. So coming up next, it's our chat and tasting with Cider George. And now it's time for this week's interview. And today we've got one of the bright young talents of British cider advocacy. Only a year out of university where he studied graphic design, this fellow has already worked for the likes of Crafty Nectar, Nightingale Cider and the Discover Cider campaign. Sitting alongside a day job for a design agency, this cider fanatic blogs, judges and has co-founded the brand new Bristol Cider Club. Joining us at the Neutral Cider Hotel and sporting a slightly worrying moustache, it's Cider George.
Hey. Hello.
You can't insult the guest straight away. Go on.
Well, you know, I can.
It is
and apparently I just did. And what can I say, mate? This industry, there's only room for one moustache. So, you know,
I might go for like a goatee or something then.
There we go. I'm happy with that.
You get the Fred Durst. You just get like the little
get a
goatee
soul
and
patch.
hat backwards.
A cease and desist very soon.
George, thank you so much for joining us. What a pleasure to have somebody as lovely and bright and vibrant as you on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming.
That's it.
Wow. Okay.
Finally some respect around here.
Long time coming. He's been in the industry for 7 minutes and he's expecting a shout. Oh, blimey. Well, better late than never. What can I say, George?
I'm happy to jump in, yeah.
Well, speaking of jumping in, has cider been in your life for long then? I'm assuming so.
I think as soon as, well, I would say 18 legally, but as soon as I was able to drink, it was...
What, liquid? Well, of any kind. Hang on.
As soon as you're able to drink, no, go on, carry on. As soon as you came out, cider.
I was baptised in a big barrel.
Yes.
Vintage.
Well, as it happens, in the 14th century, babies were indeed baptized with cider because the quality of the water was so poor.
Not the quality of the cider was so good. The quality of the water.
No, it's all relative.
Now. Well, I think let's put water under a bridge and shall we crack the first thing before we just go in circles on like, I've just asked him where he's from really. And it's gone like, well, actually babies were baptized. So let's hear about where you're from, where you grew up, and we'll crack open our first bottle and then talk about that, George.
So, I jumped the gun and I've already cracked it. But yeah, while you do that, so I was born in Crewkerne, a little town in Somerset. And then I sort of moved to Yeovil when I was a bit older, which is also in Somerset. And then sort of when I started...
There's a recurring theme here.
There is, yeah. I'm born and bred on the mean streets of Somerset.
Streets. Oh, go on.
So yeah, sort of went out with friends, drinking cider, and didn't even have eyes for beer until I was like, got to uni really. I was that guy in the friend group. Like, do you want a beer? I was like, no, I do not. So, Yeah, it was quite a shock when I went to uni and sort of everyone was drinking beer, and I was like, what do I drink in this pub that only sells Strongbow? What do I do? But anyway, yeah. So raised on sort of Thatchers, which is pretty standard, and then I had a Cheddar Valley from them once, and it's like orange.
Oh yeah,
orange goodness, and it's I actually don't mind it. Yeah.
Sort of glowing radioactive orange. Whoa.
Yeah, it does scare people off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sort of got me in. That sort of made me realise there is more than just fizzy cold cider, and you can get flat cider, you can get different stuff, and that sort of led me down this path, good, bad, whatever you want to call it. It's led me down this path, and here we are.
The path is going to lead back to Somerset, because the first thing we're drinking tonight is the Newt Dry Somerset Cider 2018. So guys, we've poured our little tasters. Let's see how it tastes.
So this is pretty intense and interesting, actually. I'm not sure whether because it's had a bit of time to age and develop, but I'm getting some like geranium and some really quite bitter characters going on. It's quite kind of heavy and intense. I like the fact that it's basically zero or minimal of sugar, and there's a bit of fruitiness coming through, but it's yeah, you know, you know that you're drinking something of substance and intensity, and that's really quite pleasing. This must be really good with certain types of food, I would suggest.
Cider goes with food. You've got to at least give one food. You can't. Yes, this cider can be drank as soon as you've started drinking. That's what we've found. Well, when you said like quite heavy and big there, I was sipping it as you were saying that, and I was kind of hoping that it wasn't this like overpowering thing, but it's just got loads of body, and it's carrying everything. It just tastes like. In my head, I was like, that's smooth. But then the finish is like, it just keeps going. It keeps giving. George, what are you saying, mate?
It's never ending, like you said. It's
like
that's not the review I gave. Never ending.
Yeah, I was really thirsty going into this, and now I feel like I'm more thirsty after drinking this because my mouth is just so dry. After
the other primary thing to note about this cider, as well as the contents on the inside of the bottle, is what is sat on the outside of the bottle. Because George, this is your area of expertise, this is your job, this is your profession, and this is your passion is around design and presentation. Tell us a little bit about what you think of what the Newt have done here.
It's curious they've actually gone for a 330 bottle. That's the one that jumps out to me straight away.
Yep.
I'm not too sure why they've done that, to be honest. I know they've got quite a few different varieties, and it might be good just to try a little bit of each of what they've got, which is fair. But I think they would benefit much more from, because they go for that fine cider. They call them cider with a Y. What is the difference?
Well,
here we go.
We're all very, very lucky that Grant isn't able to be with us this week, because he would certainly have some opinions on the matter. I did have a conversation with the lovely team at the Newt near Castle Carey in Somerset about cider with a Y for my book called Modern British Cider, coming soon later this year. There we go. And it was an expression of, you look back in the history books, and this cider with a Y was utilised and sometimes was pertaining to the finer end of ciders that were being produced. And that's very much what they are endeavouring to produce down there at the Newt. For anybody who's listening who doesn't know, the Newt is a very, very lovely and new experience. There's a super swanky 5-star hotel and a visitor experience. You can walk around the gardens, and there's a wonderful restaurant, and there is this cider making facility and experience, and they're really trying to make absolutely fabulous and controlled ciders.
How much have they paid for that advert? That was like a full tour. Head to their website. But we were talking then as well. You said about it being interesting that they've gone for 330. Is that because fine cider is now synonymous with the 750? And do you think that they're actually just trying to get people that are going to get single servings? Because that small market is a very small market.
Yeah, I think their cider, I think, would fit best in a bigger bottle alongside a natural wine. with these big flavors. And then you think like these little bottles, you've got people like Crafty Nectar and I think a couple others, they do smaller bottles and they're just like quite fun. You take them to the park rather than, but this just seems too big and too grand to be in a little bottle, and I'm just a bit confused by it. But
well, to be fair, a large proportion of their volume does go into 750ml, and if we're being perfectly honest, when I visited at the weekend, I was too tight to buy 3 bottles of the 750ml.
Wait, you paid, and you gave them an advert, and you put, guys, if you're listening, we got these from a random cider maker that we're not going to name now. So he gave.
I was too tight to buy the full price. So they do 750ml, and they do those, but there is a significant portion of the ciders that they do in the 330ml bottle. For our US listeners, that's just about 12 ounces, but it's not in the sort of, as you were saying, George, it's not about being sort of like fun and frivolous and easygoing and just put in the backpack and take away or go for the park. This is like a really serious, intense cider, but in a sort of pack format that doesn't necessarily kind of work for it so well.
Well, let's bring it back to the actual design. So first thing, I've just put it next to a bottle of In Touch, and seen that the label height is only like a mil or so smaller than that. So it's a bigger canvas space than it sounds when we say 330ml bottle. But George, why would someone go for such negative space and just the logo in a market when it's kind of either old like farmyard drawings and then new illustrations and kind of crazy madness as much as you can throw at it?
I think it's kind of like a happy middle ground, isn't it? It's like you've got your craft beers, which is absolutely wacky, and you've got your sort of paper bag looking scrumpy ciders with like 3 X's written out like some moonshine, and if you've got this in the middle, it's just like
your summary of the market is so beautiful. Completely wacky. Paper bag. This is in the middle here, boys.
So this is like a nice little classy middle ground, I'd say. I think it's verging on, personally, it is verging on the border of being a little bit boring. If you had,
I suppose it's a fine line between boring and elegant. Is that what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is all depending upon the type of consumer that they are endeavoring to reach, which maybe is not those who are coming from the world of craft beer.
Yeah, if you're going down to Somerset and you go to this lovely place for a little holiday weekend, and if you're expecting it to kind of be like a tractor or a Chevy pulling like a cart and all this, and then you see this, it might scream elegance. But obviously we're trying it in contrast now, and we're in the market and we're looking at it from that angle. So props both ways. But another thing that I've seen online that you're about, George, is information on the bottle.
Yes.
So can you tell us why you are so, and does this meet your criteria?
I think sort of the whole point of these new ciders and sort of trying to get people into cider is it's no good if they drink it but if they like it and it's like, why do I like this? Or like, that's going to be a good thing to know. But like, so if you come to a cider and it's like, you have no idea what this is, it just says dry Somerset cider on the front of it.
With a Y.
With a Y. I don't have a clue what that is. I don't know what that is. It just says dry. I don't know what is coming. I don't know what's going to come through on that. Whereas like, sort of in my dissertation, which I think we'll maybe talk about a bit more later.
Let's talk about it right now. Let's go.
Let's talk about it right now. One of the main points is that once you've got people into the craft cider industry, you just have to educate them, like go ham, basically. And sort of Pulped in Somerset, they are very good at this. Had one of their ciders earlier, actually. And
what were you doing earlier?
I'm not giving you a shameless plug.
Yes.
Mate, come on.
You can't insult his mustache and then go, oh, plug my courses. Love me. We haven't even got a sound yet for them, unless they're a magical course. So, Gabe, can you tell us what he was spellbound by earlier?
Cider George was participating in the Cider Foundation course, as brought to you by the Beer and Cider Academy, facilitated by Gabe Cook, ciderologist, author of Ciderology and Modern British Cider.
Yeah.
Where are the books?
It was too fast.
Yeah. There we go.
Also, all those magic puns, and he didn't use the magic sound. I was like,
It was so fast. I was like, different boards. I got to move buttons around.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I bad.
So yeah, you were you were telling us about your dissertation before we derailed you.
So basically, Pulped in Somerset, they have a small like Venn diagram on the side. Is it a Venn diagram? They have a small diagram.
Spider diagram.
Spider diagram on the side of their bottle, and then they've got 6 titles. I think it's florality, tannins. What are the rest? I haven't got the bottle to hand.
I think Gabe might actually know, because Gabe, did you
Did you write that?
did you help here? Am I
helped a
correct
little
in
bit.
this?
I did help a little bit. They already had the concept, so I certainly didn't invent them. And the idea of the spider diagram for flavor profiles is something that's been around for a while. But the idea for them to put it actually on the label for cider is in the UK is pretty revolutionary. So I just gave them my tuppence worth as to which labels, titles to put on there, and it is intensity, fruitiness, acidity, sweetness, florality, and tannin.
And that's just genius, isn't it? I think. So as a consumer, you know exactly what you are getting in that bottle. There's no, what is a cider with a Y, dry. That could mean a various number of things. It's absolutely bang on, and there's no messing. There's no messing. You know exactly what you're going to get. And as a consumer that doesn't have a clue, that's just come from beer, that's just come from wine, that's what you want to know. If you like an intense beer, if you like an intense wine or a floral wine, crack on. You're going to like this cider that's got a big
structural finish. Well, you've said it there a few times where you're coming from beer, you're new to this. Is that an important thing in cider, that it is approachable for everyone to you? And also, is that how you approach design, no matter what the client is? Like, it has to be approachable.
Yeah, I think it's got to be as inclusive as possible. There's no sort of, I think, sort of making something very exclusive and very niche and very sort of, I can't really think of the word, but just like very sort of in its own little bubble. I think it depends what you're making, really, but generally,
In Touch 2 is out now, so go by that, guys. Read my poem, scribbled in my handwriting. No, go on, George. Tell them how important it is to not blow your own horn here. Please, everyone. That's what we're saying. No. I'm being a knobhead here, but
I think for the wider audience, it's very important to be inclusive and educate at the first point of contact, which is the label.
This is the thing, is the first taste is with the eye. So many consumers are, either they haven't tried these brands before, or maybe even kind of new to cider, and they will be judging and assessing which drinks to purchase on the basis of this branding. Give me some examples of ciders currently in the UK marketplace that you think do a really, really good job of selling their story and presenting their liquid in an awesome way.
The first that comes to mind was, I'm not too sure of like the success rate and how many sales they've got, but one that really sticks out to me in their story is Luke's Cider.
Yes.
Again, this is something that I've talked about a lot before, but it's sort of I think they've made 3 batches now of their canned range, and basically each one is a story in itself, and it's a 330ml can. It's just completely wrapped, and you could just sort of look around it, and it's just carnage. Something is going on. It is. It's literally like it's kind of like a Beavertown-esque can.
yeah. It's a splash panel in a comic of like a vista of information in there, isn't there? There's like within that, it's a scene in the foreground and the background, hyper color, like 3-4 tone extreme color, and it's like a lot of information. But when you turn it and you hold it, that tactile element of actually holding the product, you notice more and more as you're there, and you're probably going to notice less and less as you drink a lot of it.
Yeah, and that's the point. So you sort of, when you pour it out and you're drinking it, you're sort of looking at the can and sort of picking up little storylines and, oh God, that guy's not doing very well. Or, oh, that guy's killing that guy.
Nice. You're such a nice Somerset boy. Oh dear, that guy is not having a good time. He's an alien.
Lie down and you look at that.
Alien's
He's had too much of his cider.
Oh, bloody, he probably didn't have cider as soon as he could drink, did he? He was struggling. Yeah. Well, so Luke was actually, he lived around the corner from the shop I ran in Finsbury Park in London. And he turned up, and it was one of those where, bless him, he's got this killer looking can. It was like batch 1 or batch 2. But he was like, hey, is the manager here? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I've got this cider. And I was like, yes, in a can. I was like, looking at it like, mate, you've jumped 10 leagues ahead of a lot of problems that people have, because in beer, and you've named them there, Beavertown, they made a big leap into can on the pretense of oxygen pickup and problems in beer that were solved by having a canning line. But the thing is, you can put it in the fridge, you can crush it, it's lovely. If you've got a bottle conditioned fine cider, that can be a barrier for some people if they've like, oh, I shook it up, it was weird. So having something that was small, tactile, looked cool, and as well, it tastes bloody lovely, his stuff. So I was like, mate, this guy solved problems that I didn't even have to ask. So he was a lovely guy. He was a lovely salesman to come in and be like, I've got this product.
George, so following on from that, how important do you think cans, whether they be, 330 ml, sort of 12 ounce, or, as is the more common sort of trend within craft beer, the 440 ml near a sort of 16 ounce, how important are they going to be to the advancement of, if you want to call it, craft cider in the UK?
It's curious because the 440 you've been able to get Thatchers in 440 for the longest time.
Quite.
And I've never really paid attention to it. But now sort of people like in Kent, really, it's only really started doing it, like Nightingale and Rebel Root, isn't it? They've just started getting involved in it. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy. But like, you've been able to get Thatchers and Strongbow in it for the longest time. Why is it now? Why is it new now? But hopefully it works out.
Is smaller synonymous with quality though, so that people, like, you can get Guinness in a 440 and it's actually part due to shrinkflation, in that it's easier for them as a mass producer to go, ooh, our can is still 150 and it's 440 instead of 500 ml. But when a small producer goes from their bottles that are bottle conditioned into this like clean, safe, stable product that I don't have to keep upright in the fridge, that's actually a game changer if it's going to be like a crazy flavor experience.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah, that wasn't a question. I'm just telling you. So, but
you're just spending too much time with me, my friend.
It's a funny thing though, because like we again bringing it up, Beavertown, it was like a big push, and people were like, no, cans aren't like that. And now most craft beer is in cans, and Cloudwater one that went to the US sort of a half, and 440 as an American kind of size was a good thing to bring back. But it's not necessarily that pack format is amazing. It's that if there's ingenuity and it's easily accessible, the marriage of those is what's interesting.
Definitely. So, George, if those are the examples of sort of great brands,
yes,
and great design work, depending on how much you're willing to commit career suicide, tell us a little bit about, you don't have to name the brands, but those times and examples when you've looked at something or seen something and thought, what the effing jeffin are they up to?
There's some I see, you get them in like subscription boxes and that, and some look nice, and you get people like Dunkerton's in it or big names, and next to it you've just got like a picture of someone's dog, and it's just in a square, and it's got some Microsoft Word art on it. I've got one in my brain. I'm not going to say it.
Go on.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Have you had that product before? Or have you had something from that maker? Because there are some shite makers that do that, but there are also some very good cider makers that have that.
Yeah,
So,
I'll tell you what, I've never tried the cider. It scared me off. I'm not going to go near it.
Are you scared of dogs? Is that what it is?
Petrified. No, like...
Did you get...
Last
did you get a
time
nibble
I
from
saw her on, I was in a car. I had to jump out. I was on the motorway. I was having a freak.
Here we go.
What is that? When you left your speakpipe message for us the other
I was
week?
running away. I was running away from a dog.
Well, you sounded like you were walking down the A4 or something. There was a lot of car noise in the background. Anyway, we diverged slightly. So
Shite
so animal pick art from Windows 1998. Not so good.
But saying that, there was one I tried a while back. I can't remember the name of it. I think it was called like Stones Broke or something. I think. Can't quite remember. But the label last year was god awful, and I bought it on a whim because I wanted a cider, and it was there, and that I think it was one of my favourite ciders of the year. And I wrote quite a it was a bit scathing in the way I wrote it. I was a bit mean actually looking back, but I just said how terrible it was and it should be better. And then it's just got released now. They've got new labels. I don't know if they've seen it or what, but now it actually looks quite smart. So,
George, you can hear Tom Oliver groaning in laughter here from I butchered
I can
him.
hear a snort.
Yeah. But and it's the point. It's even worse if you look at something and go, all right, that's got like a farmyard animal on it. All I'm thinking is it's going to taste farmyardy, and I don't want that. But if like you've cracked that bottle and you've gone, this is sublime, and the label does not marry, that's even more frustrating. And I'm glad you as someone who's in it as well, and I think more people need to do this, call out stuff that you don't like. If it's things that makers can change, like faulty products, this and that, or whatever, and you've spent money on it, private messages. But if it's something that's like they've put out there and they're confident with in the branding, and you go, that doesn't reach out to me, you can say it. You don't have to be nicey on bloody everything. I think that's actually a problem with cider as well. Everyone's too bloody nice.
So I'll step in and not be nice for a second. So George, obviously the US is far superior when it comes to design than the UK. So why don't we highlight some?
Hang on.
Both good and bad US makers, if you have any from a design perspective. In cider.
How do I pronounce? Is it Ancho?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Anxo. Grant got some of those cans in last year, didn't he? And I got some from Scrattings, and they were beautiful, absolutely incredible. And the fact like the triangle was just like synonymous with every single can they've got, and it just fits. You can tell they're in a range, and that actually is what I think that the Newt are missing on their bottles, I will say. The Newts all look very similar, whereas Ancho, they've gone big for like one shape, and they've just gone wacky colours, different type patterns, crazy, but you know that they all belong in one batch, and that's what they're probably my favourite looking packaged cider from the US.
And your least favorite?
I think, is it Eden cider?
Ooh, what don't you like about that? Because I think it's a dated style of branding, but I like that it puts it in a sense of time and place for me. But what don't you like about it?
It feels like it's out of like a 1970s Argos catalogue.
Well, so for our US listeners, that is a
We're still subscribed after the episode with Eden.
homeware, and the home. Yeah,
it's a small version of Walmart, like a very small kind of thing. But Jesus Christ! Well, I
think it probably is. It maybe just the case that it didn't have enough dead people shot by aliens on it. Is that what we're saying?
No,
George?
like you can go for subtle and you can go for classy, but I just think it's got the ones I've seen anyway. Just have a lot of brown on it.
Are there any makers that you know that you can synonymously see quality with, and it doesn't have to have 3-tone color aliens on the package?
Well, yeah, that comes back to like Oliver's and people like that, doesn't it?
If only everyone had a small ginger man shouting at them on Instagram every day they released a bad label. Thank you.
Better,
You're
do
welcome,
better.
Tom. Yeah.
I think we all need that. We all need that, I think. Can you do like a subscription service where we just pay you like $5.99 a month and 3 times a week you pop up or something like do better?
Yeah. I don't mind
Can you
being.
imagine?
He's been doing it for free for so long. Why not start making money off of it?
Hang on, you mean you're paying me? I've been paying people. Let me tell you how bad you are. Oh,
Well, following on from that question, I suppose my question would be, if you do have a self-proclaimed traditional cider maker that doesn't necessarily want to or need to reach out to urban, younger, contemporary consumers. They're happy servicing the people within their sort of more local community, or they're in sort of more rustic, traditional areas, and they are making that rustic, traditional drink. Is it more appropriate for them to brand their stuff in a way that features apples or tractors or orchards, or talks about things in ye olden days? Is there anything wrong with that?
I think you've got to play to your market to a certain level, yeah. And I guess, yeah, if their market is exclusively yokels,
Well, I didn't call them yokels. I think you did that. That was
if their market is just degraded nothing.
Oh, yokel.
No.
I'd consider myself a yokel. So.
with that moustache you are, certainly. God, blimey.
Gabe, I've never seen you on the attack.
God,
You're like a peacock. You're like a peacock seeing some other big like poppy peacock, and you're like, well, my tail's way fancier than yours. That's the top of the episode. I can feel it. Oh, you know when you hear it leave. But yeah, so how like the yokels element there, how do you playing to your market is the actual question.
Well, yes, some cider makers, they don't want to be in the supermarkets. They don't want to, again, have this young contemporary market. They are just happy plodding along, and I guess that's absolutely fine. There's no harm in that, and what they make is still great. I could think quite a few cider makers that just haven't changed up in a while, and I still drink their cider. But again, if it's those people that want to be more well known, and then sort of still quite, they have crap labels, that's when I sort of see it. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit, when they're really trying to branch themselves out and reach more people, and then they fall flat on that. But if they're not trying to do that, then crack on, put a tractor on it, go crazy.
Do you think it's easier for other products in the way that a lot of cider makers are just one-man bands? So like with beer, the turnover, everything included, and this and the other, but also it's easy to have like an online presence and be on Instagram and pay someone to be your social media manager and be engaged. Is it easier for beer to have teams that are usually bigger and to be plugged into a local community than it is, say, a farmer in the middle of nowhere trying to get his product out and not really caring if it gets to London?
Well, it's the case, isn't it? I think beer makes more money than cider, doesn't it? So can they necessarily afford a social media manager, a place in city centre to flog their cider, a tap room? Can they do all that? Like the actual logistics of it, I doubt it. To be honest, like there's one cider tap room in Bristol, if I'm right, and
soon to be two. But yes, definitely one guaranteed.
And then
I don't know why I said that. It's not mine. I'm not opening one. I realised that sounded
is this some fantastic new news? What's going on?
In Touch will be on tap. No. I'm taking
That's the name of the bar, In Touch. Yeah. Oh my God, it sounds amazing.
Oh God, no.
Well, actually, George, you've got some big news, haven't you, coming this week? It says on your Instagram currently, and by the time this is broadcast, that something new is coming. What's fun? What's vibrant? What are you changing up?
So at the moment, all I do really is reviews, and now I've sort of moved to Bristol, and I love the city. I want to sort of shout about that a little bit more. So I'm going to be going to places, events, bars, pubs, tap room.
Tap room singular. Tap room.
And shouting about it and telling people where they can get great cider in Bristol, and just do more of like now I can go outside, and we all can go outside. Do more of that, like sort of. I want people to be able to go down my feed and sort of use it as almost like a tourist guide. You've come to Bristol. What do you want? Yeah, this cider at this place, this bar, go there. So that's what I want to try and do. Really root myself into Bristol.
Well, you said, yes, we can. Let's bring it back to cans. I've got 2 in front of me, one thanks to you, and I've given you one. So we've got here Nightingale's cans, which we didn't have branded. We actually had just silver tinnies. But
That's
also,
right.
speaking of silver tinnies, I've got an Oliver's Perry here still. And I wanted to talk about the difference in branding with you. Nearly dropped mine. I went over the fucking I'm gonna have to get that clip of video. My face. Oh, that's in touching cloth. Now I tell you that. So, Nightingale cider, part of the cider, yes, campaign, and then Oliver's. I've got the Perry here. I think you guys have the cider or Perry. I don't know which one. You've got the cider.
I have the
I've got the Perry,
off the Dur.
just not in my hands.
So what's the difference between these for you? Because they're both minimal text-based labels.
One of them's gone landscape and one of them's gone portrait. Well, one of them's gone up the can, one of them's gone along the can, and I think one definitely works better. Cider has gone sort of from cider. They've written cider up the can from the bottom to the top, whereas Oliver's cider has gone around the can, and it really obstructs legibility. You can't read it. You can't read it. So I've got Liv Dur here.
Yeah, I've got liver. I've got liver.
Yeah, liver Dur.
But that is if especially if you're in a can section of a fridge in a bottle shop and the cans are all stacked together, and if there's a little cider section, heavens thank if we do actually get one and not just one line in a fridge, you've got cans all together. You're not going to have a single can or a triptych of cans to show the whole thing. So do you think it's a big consideration to have where it's going to be presented? Because we've all summed it up, but that just says liver, doesn't it? If you're in a fridge.
A can of liver.
You can't eat liver. But his whole thing, and we said it, his branding's amazing.
Yeah.
His whole thing is it's Oliver's cider. You know what you're getting because it's always quality. But even though it says Oliver's cider, you're only seeing liver.
If I
So you prefer liver to cider?
No, I'm saying I prefer that cider to what Oliver's have done, because you can't like you've got to really picture where you're going to see that, and I think Oliver's at the moment they're in bottle shops and places like that, and their bottles work, but this in a fridge, you've got to imagine it's going to be next to loads. You're not going to read it. I've got Ollie Sid here. What even is that?
But to an extent, does that not, the fact that you can't quite see everything, is it a tactic to get the consumer to reach in and to twizzle the can? It's like, what is that actually saying? What is going on there? Then they look at it, they got it in the hand, they pick it up. Oh, before they know it, they bought it and they're drinking it.
Possibly, because if they see,
You're all going no, either by shaking your heads or being polite in George's case. And you go, maybe. But
You didn't even address how I dealt with that.
well, you just gave me the moody stare. So I was like, oh, shit. It's like, you gave me the death rays. Like, okay.
But yeah, George, tell us more about why people might pick these decisions when going into a new package format for a cider.
I'm not too sure why they've gone for this on Oliver's cider. I'm not too sure, because like what Gabe said, if they do see it and they do twizzle it and they once I've twizzled it enough, it is an Oliver's, maybe I'll get it. Whereas if they see this Nightingale, it's they've got 3 colours, haven't they? Red, blue, and orange. That's going to stand out right away in my eyes, and you can see it right away. Nightingale, or if you're the other way, cider, and you know what it is straight away. There's no barrier between that. So if you go up to it and you have to twizzle it around, that's friction to you buying that can or even picking it up. Whereas Nightingale, straight away, like, bang, this is cider, this is what you're getting, buy it now, please, right now.
Wow. That's it. Tom, you've done wrong. George has told you. There's new blood on Instagram shouting down the old boys. But speaking of the old boys, I really tried to give us some hex, but I've mistakenly fucked up and given George some Dunkertons, which, I mean, out of all the problems, it's actually not a very bad problem, like to have these two makers, but these represent, I guess, a more traditional pack format in a nice way. So I've got Hex brown apple cider here, and it literally has big old bold font and a big old apple on it. Gabe, which one have you got?
I've got the port wine of Glastonbury, which similarly has traditionally made Somerset single variety and a big old apple on the front of the label.
And George, what have we got here?
I've got a bottle of Dunkertons. I'm not too sure how old it is.
It's old enough so that there has been a rebrand in the interim period since
There has
bottle.
Since 2006.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even want to open this. It's a bit old aged. But
I like that label. That label looks. If I saw that now, I'd be like, they've gone for a strong typography.
Yeah.
And a lot of negative space. Like that to me is like what I would want from the new, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for those that can't see it, it's basically brown because it's called Browns.
That's the classic of the football match. And for those of you watching in black and white, Manchester United are in the red. Like, hang on.
It's called Browns. It's brown.
That's all you need to know, really.
It's brown is also a famously beautiful color that just like
Never a frown with
like
golden
we've got
brown.
orange, pinks, all this, and it's like
Brown.
dull paper brown. Like,
It does.
Oh, the way you sold that, I saw that as this nice like modern take on tradition, and you've just kneecapped it there.
It does look like an advert for like an old supermarket, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, I think compared to what you were talking about before, if that's on the shelf with a Luke cider or something like that, it's going to look very boring.
But I think the thing is with beer, that to me reminds me of the Colonel, that kind of like artisan hand paper. And it's why every organic food shop you go to, they use the brown paper bags. It's not because they're environmentally better or cheaper or anything like that. It's because it's the illusion of artisan and small.
Well,
It's that linked image for me. And I looked at that and was like, that tells me something. And Dunkertons don't always use that color. So it's a purposeful choice.
I wonder whether cider makers are being so what's the word? Knowledgeable about their choices in this kind of way, or whether
am I seeing the forest in the trees? Or rather,
possibly.
am I not seeing the forest in the trees? Am I talking about how nice the trees
What colour have you not done on label so far? Brown.
Done.
All right, so when it was a foxwhelp, we used that foxwhelp colour. What colour for browns? We're doing the butt Perry next. What are we doing for that?
Oh, moving on. I suppose, George, we're having this chat, the opportunity to have this conversation about branding, what we like, what we don't like, what's cool, what's contemporary, what's a bit old fashioned. Most important thing is that, compared to, let's say, 4 years ago, just how much has changed in that time in terms of the number of products and the brands and just the full sort of range of playfulness. The branding has got to be in a better place than where it was a few years ago, don't you think?
No. George, that was pretty damning, mate.
Yeah. Absolutely. You can't have an absolute incredible cider these days and just live off of that. You have to have the whole package. It's got to be everything. I'm sure there's so many more cider makers and more conversation about cider. I think being able to actually stand out or even just stand up to everything else, let alone stand out, you've got to up your game, I think, which is what Dunkertons have done since this brown label.
Like that again. I like it. I feel that's getting a kick. Before we go, I'm going to say that I got on my table tonight a couple bottles that I like the look of, and two of them aren't from the UK. One is Group Hug from Brutes, which Gabe actually put on Sunday brunch as something new and upcoming in cider, because it just looks like a storybook on meth. It's madness. Like, and the tones, everything. And I'm colorblind. I know they do a lot of green and red, but I look at it and I'm like, that it looks cool, even if I can't tell the difference between the colors. And then the other one, Aberov, they sent me a brutal, which it's super simple, but I think it just stands head and shoulders above the others. And then last but not least, there's a Bacchus skin contact one with a handwritten label. But no, is there anyone? Yeah, is there any cider that you recommend people drink, good or bad branding aside? But are there 2 or 3 that you would say, if you're listening to Cider George, these are the ciders to pick up?
One of my favorite. Well, I've done 2 top 10 ciders of the year because I've only been doing Instagram for 2 years, and both years Pilton cider have won. So that's saying something. One of them was unfortunately in touch.
There you go. And well, if anyone comes on and plugs your book and says, "I loved it, I read it," you feel good, so I feel good now that that's there.
all right, yeah.
Up the touch. Yeah. That doesn't come across well.
Up the touch. Oh dear. I'm going to just distract from that by saying, so then, George, what are you looking forward to for the rest of the year as we start to open up and, break through the lockdown kind of period? What are the events or activities or things that you're really, really looking forward to?
Cider Salon is right at the top of my list. I went 2 years ago, the last one, and I knew no one, and I went there and I went round on my own, and it was actually quite sad, actually, looking back. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. That was it. I'm going to go on my own again. I'm not going to speak to anyone.
Hang on. I'm going to interject here and say that's not fair. That's not true, because you and I had our first conversation about 3 months prior. And when you turned up, you come over to and say, "Hi, I'm Cider George." And so we said hello, and we had a photo. And off you went.
Merit. That's what he's saying.
Not say that.
Oh, sorry. There we go. No, you're right. Then we'll keep moving on. So, well, hopefully, that was your first foray into the warm embrace of the cider community. Martyn was generally making that sound on that day, so he won't remember anything from you either. And I tell you what, my friend, as a measure of your commitment and dedication to the joy and the world of cider, the subsequent time I saw you after that was at the cider run at the Hawks event.
Let's not talk about that.
And well, all I will say, because I can't remember if you did anything embarrassing. What I will say,
no, quickly. I know he was sticking stickers on his mates. He just kept doing it. It was very odd.
Of course, is he still sticking stickers on his mates? Anyway, the thing that I knew was that you were still at uni in Plymouth at the time, and you'd caught a bus at about 4 o'clock in the morning to get to London, to then have a day of drinking lots of cider, to then catch a bus back home again that very evening. And I just...
Yeah, George.
the dedication, because it wasn't just to go somewhere to get kind of tanked up. You could have done that in Plymouth. This was your dedication to meet people and to research and just to kind of revel into it. And just like everybody that was there and that I sort of spoke to, you can recognize when somebody's like, yeah, these are the people that we want working for cider. So you're already a really important, integral part of our UK cider scene, and it's just really exciting what's going ahead. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. So for people who want to know a little bit more about Cider George, what are the best handles and places for them to go and check you out?
I think it's only Instagram. So at @CiderGeorge_, and you'll find me, and hopefully soon you'll see what is coming soon. So
hang on, why have you got an underscore on there? Is there another Cider George somewhere? Then you had to do an underscore to...
Cider George is taken.
No. There's another Cider George somewhere.
What's worse is, George, all the fans of that Cider George are going to be tuning in going, this is all a lie.
This faker.
This is Cider George _
This phony. I've listened to an hour of this. For the wrong guy.
Yeah. Oh dear. George, thank you so much for joining us. We're just an absolute blast. Thank you so much. And your insight and your level of articulateness around sort of branding and design is something that I will be heeding, certainly. And will certainly heed if I were ever to bring out my own brand that isn't sausage flavoured Perry. So thank you very, very much. Great to have you on the show and look forward to seeing you in the flesh sometime soon. Cheers, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
What's up? And now it's time for some listener questions. Martyn, what are the good patrons of the Neutral Cider Hotel asking us this week?
Well, I asked them. It was a double flip around reverse. It was an Uno card.
Oh, take that. Whoa.
Here you go.
Shoo.
Shabam, boom. Good night.
Hello,
We're
how are you?
closing.
But how are you? Oh, okay, what? No, but what's my name? Oh, well, shit, it's all gone wrong.
It's Mr. George Cider, they call me. We
that's
said
right.
more in that minute than I think we said in some episode. So I said, tonight we're discussing branding on the show. What is your favourite branding when it comes to cider? And we've had some good responses. So I will say we've started off here. _Ciderverse said funk cider. And I can't remember. I think Albert from Ross on Y doesn't like funk, or does he like funk? Does he like funk?
He is not keen on the term funk. Maybe the term funk applied to Ross and Y ciders. He doesn't think they are funky. He thinks that they are fruit driven, and that's the impression of the microflora.
Well, the _Ciderverse may be talking about a cider maker that I don't know, but I know that Albert is a renegade of funk. So, Brum Cider Club, they said Artist Straw Cider have the most beautiful labels out there. I know that we spoke about them on the show before, and Grant has actually been in touch, and Pomboy has said Brutes is inspired. Revel Cider 2, and then said Floral Tyrannas in New York as well. So that's Floral TERRANES. How are you pronouncing that? Floral Tyrannas.
What the?
Yeah, I read it and I was like, I've had a few. I don't know what that is. So I will Google it in a moment. So, Bright Cider Life. I like clean and simple, but with shitloads of colour. Well, that isn't a brand. You've just given me a shopping list. Moving on, Mr. _I_B Ross on Y. That's with a Y. And then my wife, Hannah, hello. She says,
Hi, Hannah.
Why are there always pigs on cider bottles? Would love to know where that originates from. Gabe, any history on shit branding?
Well, I don't know about shit branding, but about pigs. Pigs were certainly commonplace within orchards, you know, that being the multi-use landscape. You got the trees and then you got the livestock underneath. And in fact, the Gloucester old spot pig is also known as the orchard pig. And the old legend goes that it gains its dark spots on its pink skin from the apple falling on the tree onto the pig. There you go.
Cool. So animal abuse on all levels there, honey.
Absolutely.
There you go. And
By the way, I think it's pronounced floral terrains. TERRANES.
Well, that's not
That's
spelled,
not how you spell terrain.
That's not how you spell terrain.
No, but that's how it could still be pronounced.
well, for anyone listening at home, we're not wrong.
You're never wrong.
Never.
No,
wrong,
the
absolutely.
artist is always wrong and will pretend he isn't. So finally, it is from the man who is responsible for liver. It's Oliver's _cider. He said, leaving a mark. Now, I'm not sure if this is a cryptic thing or if there's a cider called Leaving a Mark, but it just seems very...
Who's Mark?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Mark.
I just read it and I was like, you know what? I don't need to research that. Because if it isn't all contained in there and I have to work for it, there's a problem. And I think that speaks to a lot of bad branding. So leaving a mark, who knows? Well, after that, we're leaving the branding behind. We're done. So I believe we have a speak pipe. Scott,
Ooh.
who's left us a message?
Who?
The lovely Gemma has reached out to us a few weeks ago. We're a little bit behind on our speak pipes. And here's her message.
Hey, Gemma.
Hi, Gem.
Hi, guys. So in light of the recent positive news on the easing of lockdown restrictions, are there any cider-centric events this summer that you would recommend us trying to get to? Cheers.
Oh, nice to hear Gemma's dulcet tones. They're leaving us a message. There are, well, it's all slightly still to be seen exactly how things will pan out, but we very much hope that there will be some events happening this summer, certainly from a UK context. The first one I've got in my diary is Brew London, which is normally it's at the Truman, the old Truman Brewery, but it's taking place at the Printworks in London. It's very cool and contemporary, mostly beers, but there's a load of ciders there too. It's definitely one to check out if you're within London. But I think the event that the majority of people are waiting for is, of course, the Cider Saloon, aka colloquially Cider Salon, in Bristol, taking place on Saturday, the 14th of August, plus a few days of fringe events beforehand.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people responded to the Instagram that I put out. I basically said, as the world opens up and cider events are on the horizon, which ones are you looking forward to? And Jake Casey, 24, so Jake Casey 24 said, Biffy Clyro, not Cider Salon, but obviously hanging along from a certain episode. Bill Bradshaw, Cider Saloon, and the After Party. And I believe he was filming some Perry things with someone.
He was. And Bill is actually quite a big fan of drum and bass, and I believe that he's being asked to procure either being the DJ himself or maybe somebody he knows to ensure that the after party is absolutely rocking and rolling. I'm sure that'll be the case after everybody has drunk a copious amount of cider, no doubt.
Well, Cider Sleuth says Bristol Cider Salon and then big old clap hands. And the Caledonian Cider Factory said Cider Saloon. So we're as ingrained in the humour as we can be. And Eleanor in DC said, time to research what's on in the DC area. Apple beer.
Wow.
Thanks, Eleanor.
Yeah.
I don't know why I did the voice. I was going.
Well, look, just to distract from you for 1 second, pertaining back to Ryan at the Caledonian Cider Factory, he's not only excited about it because it's an awesome event, and not only because he's going to be attending as a punter, but he is going to be there with his ciders. So the good people of England and of Bristol will get the opportunity to talk to the man firsthand, ask him about eating of leaves and putting whole branches into barrels, and to taste these amazing ciders. And that's what the Cider Salon is all about. Awesome opportunity to meet great people and great cider events.
Do you know what though? I think that's a good kind of like marking, like line in the sand for us. So if we need to see how many people at the Cider Salon say ding after they mention you in your book, and we need to ask Ryan at the Caledonian Cider Factory how many people actually refer to his cidery in the correct name, mention spiders, or actually ask him if he's going back to tackle and bait. Like, I think we have a good point in time to go, all right, we got this cider event coming up. How many people in the industry actually give a crap about the three of us and Grant, who isn't here, in a room?
Quite right. And although Gemma's question pertained to what's happening over the summertime, if you stretch that a little bit more, then fingers crossed there are going to be some other events too. Between the 2nd and the 5th of September, good old Ross-on-Wye, Cider and Perry, they have a fantastic festival on the farm. Go down and camp, and it's chill. It's some music live in the barn. Obviously, there's all the Ross-on-Wye ciders, but they invite about a dozen other cider makers to showcase their wares as well over the course of the Saturday. It's classically just such a lush do, and I think it's increasingly becoming a place where cider makers come to hang out as well. And also over in Northern Ireland, in Armagh, they've got a food and cider festival, which is hopefully taking place between the 9th and the 12th of September this year. There's a great little cider scene in that part of the world. Huge numbers of apples grown, some fantastic cider makers.
Whoa. Let's jump on that. I'm not asking for an extensive list, but are there any cider makers that stand out that you could either get in that area and people might find out about through the show, or a lot of people in England, Wales and Scotland might be able to find? Anyone that you're recommending, Gabe?
I mean, just over the border from Armagh into Antrim, you've got Tempted Cider. I think they're my favourite producer from Northern Ireland, Davy Up-Richard. Apple grower and great cider maker, utilising dessert fruit. Cookers Bramley are the sort of famous thing within that part of the country. So you've got the nice acidity. He's also got access to some more tannic-driven fruit as well. And his dry, I think, is just a classic. In fact, they do feature in Ciderology, and there's a very high likelihood that they'll be featuring in Modern British Cider too, I suspect too. But also,
wait. Were they in the translation of Mondo del Cidro? Which is the Transylvanian version, if you're going to listen to my accent.
Il mondo del cidro, drink a blood.
I want to drink your cider from birth, like George.
Yeah. Also, big shout outs to Longmeadow Cider as well, and to McIver's, and also to the Armagh Cider Company. There are some great producers out there, and as ever, it's all about sort of access and opportunity to get a hold of them. But do Google them, do check them out, see what you can find, and just celebrate this fantastic range of ciders we got.
Access and opportunity. You've just given me more on my shopping list. And the more people that know about those kind of things, the more people that search for it, the more people that buy about it, the more people that talk about it. It constantly feeds into it, because I know a lot of the time we say, "Oh, these areas are great," and it's just nice to not hear the same sort of 5 cider makers on loop.
Absolutely.
People on the outside.
And for people on the other side of the Atlantic, there's a huge number of events, and forgive me for not knowing every single one of them, but certainly the range of Cider Summit events, which are particularly prominent in sort of San Francisco and Portland and Chicago. Do check out cidersummitnw.com to see whether those events are taking place. Obviously, we're still in a slightly challenging time and scenario, but those are well worth going to if you're interested in sort of just dipping your toe into the world of cider, or want to just taste all these different range of different products. Absolutely fantastic.
Awesome.
And if you're in New York Cider Week is, it's a very long week. It's the 15th to the 31st of May.
It's one of those American weeks in the Big Apple, see? The apple's big, the week's big.
Bigger and better, haven't you? Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God. This is the biggest week I've ever fucking had. That's a fortnight minimum, surely.
Taking place across the city will be a load of fantastic events, I'm sure, too. So go check that out.
Beautiful. Well, I mean, they've got beautiful cider. Have they got working calendars? Who knows? But I feel a bit envious.
Who cares?
But yeah, I'm just really pleased that we're in a position now where we're actually talking about events, and all these producers that we're talking about that have got great branding and they've got the product. People are going to be able to drink their stuff and start getting into pubs, start going out to like festivals and that, and actually engage with cider in the way that we've actually been dreaming about for the last bloody year.
Absolutely. Looking forward to all of that. So there we go. That's it for another week. Special thanks to Cider George for joining us for a great conversation. We had a great time. Grant, any final thoughts?
Does it matter what we think? Get out of here. Get out of here.
There you have it. And if you enjoy our podcast and want to help, please spread the word about our beautiful Neutral Cider Hotel. Tell all your friends about it. Encourage them to listen. You can also follow, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. It really, really does help. And please find and follow us on social media. We're at Neutral Cider Hotel on Insta and Facebook, and Neutral Cider Pod on Twitter. As always, you can visit us on our website to listen online or share episodes at neutralciderhotel.com. And lastly, but not least, please do reach out and leave us a voicemail. We love to hear your voices. Leave questions or comments at speakpipe.com/Neutral Cider Hotel. Chaps, for another week, thank you so much. Cheers, wassail. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.
Later.